Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here today to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and some TV, maybe some other things too. I like to talk about a little bit of UFC now and again when I get the chance, maybe some things going on in the world. I don't know, there's a whole bunch of stuff we could talk about, but mostly we talk about movies around here. And hey, I'm just going to give you guys a heads up. I'm still, I've got the bronchitis, so that means I've still got my cough, and it means I'm going to have my cough for a couple of weeks still, so I'm going to have, you know, some Hall's lozenges in my mouth. I'm going to be sipping on some tea. I apologize. I know it's kind of annoying hearing my candy in my mouth, but imagine how annoying it is for me having to do the show like this. But anyway, I don't care. We're going to talk about some movie stuff. Now, here's how today's show is going to go, guys. I have picked out several topics that you guys have emailed into me. Now, how do you get an email, a topic, or a question on the John Campea Show? It's really quite simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. And make sure when you do, you put the word topic in the subject line. And of course, guys, as always, the shorter the better. 90 words or less, or else I'm not even going to bother reading it because I wouldn't even be able to fit it on the screen even if I liked your question. So, with all of that out of the way, let's get started with the first topic today. And the first topic today comes to us from Tom Waterloo, who writes, "Hey John, love the show. Thank you so much, Tom. Please settle a bet. My wife loved The Greatest Showman, and I liked it a lot. But my money is on Les Mis being the best Hugh Jackman-led musical. What do you think?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. You know what? If you guys remember, I did my review of The Greatest Showman. Don't act like you don't love my porg. I did my review for The Greatest Showman, and I like the movie very much. I said the weakness of the film lies in the narrative, the story. The story could have been better. It could have been, you know, told better and had a better narrative structure. But what makes the movie Greatest Showman is the musical numbers. And the musical numbers makes up 80% of the film. So overall, I really quite enjoyed it. When Ann and I were in Boston, we went to a movie theater out there, and we went to go watch Greatest Showman again. And I gotta tell you, I like the movie even more the second time around. It's a beautifully done. The musical numbers get me choked up and emotional, and it's just an absolutely fantastic experience of the movies. Again, it's not on my top 10 list of the year. It's not going to be nominated for Best Picture or anything like that because, again, the narrative story just isn't quite there enough. But as an overall movie-going experience, Greatest Showman's fantastic. I just absolutely have a ball watching that movie. I really do. And I'm probably going to go watch it again later this week. But if you're going to ask me to compare Greatest Showman to Les Mis, I gotta go with Les Mis. I mean, there's a reason why Les Mis, first of all, in and of itself, the story of Les Mis has stood the test of time. It's been celebrated and redone. It's still running on stages. I can sing to you, you know, 10 songs from it off the top of my head. Les Mis is an enduring, wonderful story. And on top of that, this rendition of Les Mis with Hugh Jackman is just fantastic. I thought the whole cast was just incredible with that, in that film. And Hugh Jackman was nominated for Best Actor for that one as well. It's got the great, memorable, all-time enduring music. On top of that, it's got a great, wonderful story. On top of that, it's got incredible character development. On top of that, it's got all the fantastic performances. Blah, blah, blah. I like The Greatest Showman very, very much. I do. I'm going to see it several more times. But trying to compare it to Les Mis, which I think is probably my all-time favorite true musical. You know, another one that I would consider in that kind of category would be, what's it called? Moulin Rouge. Is Moulin Rouge, but Moulin Rouge is a little bit different. It is a musical, but it takes, you know, old existing pop songs and just repurposes them, whereas things like Les Mis are original pieces. Things in Greatest Showman are all original pieces, so there's a little bit of a difference. But if you're asking me, and it's all subjective, But if you're asking me to pick between Greatest Showman, which I like very much, or Les Mis, I'm going to go with Les Mis every single time. What would you guys pick? If you had to choose between those two Hugh Jackman-led musicals, jump down to the comment section. Let me know which one are you going for, Greatest Showman or Les Mis. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Fernando Fernandez, who writes, is Edgar Wright being overlooked for awards for Baby Driver? I don't know everything that goes into directing, but in my opinion, to create a movie like Baby Driver really looks like it takes some serious work and expertise. What do you think? All right, well, first of all, you guys all know I am a huge fan of Edgar Wright. I just think the guy is an incredible filmmaker because he doesn't just approach film as an art. You know, you get a lot of very good directors who approach film and approach their movies as an art. And they should, because it is an art. But there's something about Edgar Wright, being around him, because I've had a chance to hang out with him a number of times. But being around him, but also watching his movies, you also get a sense that he approaches it as a film fan. He approaches his movies from an artistic point of view as a director, but he also approaches his movies as a film fan. What would I, as a fan, love to see on the screen? And he kind of melds those two worlds together when he makes his movies. And nowhere is that put on display better than his movie Baby Driver. You guys know I love Baby Driver. Baby Driver made it on my official top 10 list. It came in at number 10, but it made it in my official top 10 list of my favorite movies of 2017. He just did an incredible job with it. It might be, I'm not going to say Baby Driver is my favorite movie he's ever made, but it quite possibly might be the best directing effort he's ever given. And it's just, I love Baby Driver. I can't say enough about it. That being said, Edgar Wright this year is yet another perfect example of how monumentally, practically impossible it is to win an Academy Award. Because you can't just do a great job. Edgar did a great job on Baby Driver. Amazing. But you can't just be great. You have to be great, and there can't be 5 other people who arguably were even greater that year. And this year, when you're talking about the Best Director category, it is stacked. It is absolutely stacked with some incredible directorial debuts. There are going to be several people, maybe even ahead of the line in front of Edgar, that are not going to get nominated for Best Director this year that's going to blow us away. There are going to be several very worthy directors this year that don't get nominated. Just because there's only 5 nominee spots, folks. Just 5. And what? Do you bump Steven Spielberg for his work on The Post out to make room for Edgar? I don't think so. Do you bump Guillermo del Toro for his work on Shape of Water out to make room for Edgar? I don't think I would. And you can go down that list. So I don't think, and that's one of the problems. I find a lot of times with us as film fans, if somebody does a great job, we just go, well, then they should get Oscar buzz. But it's not that simple. If it were that simple, winning an Academy Award wouldn't mean as much as it is. But winning an Academy Award is one of the most impossible things to do because of the sheer volume and talent of the competition out there. You can't just do the best job of your life. You have to do the best job of your life. You've heard me say this before, and hope, fingers crossed, that there aren't 5 other people who also did the best job of their lives that might have just been a little bit better than yours this year. And that makes it tough. So, look, you know I am very biased towards Edgar Wright. You know I think the world of Edgar Wright. You know I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan. But that being said, I think if I was on the nominating committee for the Oscars this year, I don't think Edgar would get one of the nominations. Not because he doesn't deserve it per se, but because there were just too many other people who might have even been a little bit more deserving this year to get the spot. And that's tough. That's tough. Now, if I were on the nominating committee, would I, and there were going to be 10 films nominated this year, I would put Baby Driver in that category. I would put Baby Driver up for Best Picture if it gets 10 nominee spots this year, and we'll probably end up with something like 8 nominees this year. But anyway, that's just my thought on that. What do you guys think? What did you think of Baby Driver overall? What do you think of Edgar Wright? And what do you think about his chances of getting an Oscar nomination? If you were on the nominating committee, would you give him a spot? Jump into the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And this one should be fun. This next topic comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Kevin. And Kevin writes, do you think Warner Brothers will try to give Henry Cavill a better lip in the Justice League Blu-ray release? Nothing became more symbolic for the Justice League fan base's disappointment than Superman's weird pie hole. Or is it what's done is done, and no sense in throwing good money after bad? Well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, with all the issues surrounding Justice League, kind of the poster child for both fans of the film like me and people who weren't fans of the film was the whole issue of Henry Cavill's digital mustache removal and how in some scenes it just looked totally bad. Like really, really bad. Now, there have been, the visual effects overall for Justice League have come into question. To be honest, it's not just Henry Cavill's mustache and his lip. The visual effects overall in Justice League were a big question mark for a lot of fans. Like, look, the villain looked terrible. He just did. The model, the stagnant standstill model of Steppenwolf looked great. But once it started to animate, it just looked so bad. You know, that Justice League and Justice Gods Among Us moment when you had the camera go to side view and you had Superman floating in the air and Steppenwolf there and it was supposed to look like a video game scene, looked horrible. The purple crystal things popping up looked terrible. I mean, there was just a lot of bad visual effects. Now, I've had people ask me before, John, what do you think about the idea of then, you know, of Warner Brothers redoing a lot of the visual effects for Justice League before the Blu-ray release? What do you think about Justice League and Warner Brothers, you know, completely redoing all the visual effects and making a much better visual effects movie before putting it on Blu-ray and home streaming? And what I've always said to that is, it doesn't make financial sense. The amount of money they would need to put in to like overhauling, you know, 70% of the visual effects in that movie is just not financially worth it compared to how much money you make on home video these days, which isn't a ton. So Warner Brothers has to look at themselves and say, we already spent over $300 million on this film. We barely broke even on it. Do we want to step up and drop another $20 million into visual effects, redoing visual effects just for the home video release? I just don't think it's prudent. I don't think it's wise. However, if we want to talk about maybe just fixing one thing, and we want to talk about this poster child that's been kind of the representation of the problems with Justice League, being Superman's mustache or lack thereof, is that something you could look at? Because I'll be honest with you, I know there are some people who think every scene Henry Cavill is in looks terrible with the mustache. I disagree. I mean, it's not great, but I only think there's 2 or 3 scenes where the digitally removed mustache looks really bad. I only think there's 2 or 3 scenes that it really jumps out at you as to being, oh my gosh, that just looks horrible. I think there's only 2 or 3 shots in the movie that really happens. And if that's the case, if Warner Brothers wanted to step up, say maybe drop $100,000, maybe even less than that, maybe like $70,000, you could probably get a visual effects house and say, look, here's 3 shots for the movie. We didn't like how these turned out. Can you make this look better? Take some time, get it right. Just 3 shots and maybe spend like $100,000 tops on it. Then at that point, I would go, why not? Why not? Because it would address the big elephant in the room, which is, you know, the upper lip there of Henry Cavill. You leave most of the shots, because most of the shots I don't think are all that noticeable anyway. I know some people say they are. I don't think they're all that noticeable most of the time. You just fix those 3 main shots with the lip, I think it would create a real impression difference for a viewer. Because you take out the worst thing, it elevates the overall quality of something. And I think those Superman lip shops were some of the most talked about and some of the worst parts. You put a little bit of money, just a tiny bit of money, into fixing those up, it wouldn't take a lot of time, wouldn't take a lot of resources, and it would increase, I think, the viewing experience for a lot of people watching the movie by taking out those 2 or 3 worst culprits. Why not? So, well, I'm the guy who's always saying, you can't sink a lot of money into redoing the effects for the Blu-ray. At the same time, I will also stand up and say, but just changing 2 or 3 shots with the upper lip, totally doable. Why not do it? Go ahead and do it, I say. Go ahead and do it, I say. Will they do it? I don't know. I mean, Warner Brothers may be at the point where they're like you're saying, what's done is done. Leave it. We've already sunk enough time, energy, and headache into this project. Just put it out in a home video. Maybe that's what they do, and who would blame them if they did? But if they wanted to fix that one thing, I think they could do it. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, John Nicola, who writes, hope you're feeling better. Thank you so much, John. I'm feeling much better. The cough is still there, but all the other symptoms are gone, and I actually physically feel quite better. Thank you so much. Have you heard the report that Matt Reeves' Batman may indeed be a quote-unquote soft reboot a la Batman Forever, and still take place within the DC Films universe, but with no mention of previous films or Ben Affleck? Warner Brothers has soured on him. What are your thoughts? Okay, so this is another one of the big elephants in the room going on today. Here's what's happened. A number of websites, understandably so, have been running with this story that there's a report floating around out there that says a couple of things. Number one, and the most sexy part of it, is that Warner Brothers has soured, that's the word being used, has soured on Ben Affleck. The reality is they soured on him a long time ago. But whatever. So that they've soured on Ben Affleck. Ben soured on them too, by the way. That they're looking at Jake Gyllenhaal, which is what I told you guys ages ago. That they're looking at Jake Gyllenhaal to step in and replace him. That they're looking at it being a quote-unquote soft reboot for the DCEU. Soft reboot, who knows what that means? That can mean anything. Soft reboot could mean anything. So, whatever that means. And yada, yada, yada. On and on and on. Now, couple things here, and then a huge disclaimer that we all have to keep in mind. Couple of things. Warner Brothers has soured on Ben. Look, I've been telling you guys for about a year now that the relationship between Warner Brothers and Ben, particularly when it comes to the DCEU, had broken. It had broken. I've been telling you for a year that Ben does have one more film left on his contract, and I think it's 50-50 that he appears in one more film. It's 50-50 shot. Maybe he'll appear in Flashpoint, maybe he won't, whatever. But that after that, he's definitely done. Because I don't think he wants to come back. I don't think Warner Brothers wants him back. I've been telling you that for a year. So the idea that Warner Brothers is souring him, that's nothing new. That's nothing new. Pardon me. The notion, oh, porg, cleanse my throat. Ah, thank you, porg. Okay, so the notion then that they could be looking at Jake Gyllenhaal. Well, again, that's nothing new. I was the first guy to come out and tell you that, you know, Matt Reeves was looking at Gyllenhaal, that he was his first choice. Some ass clown dumblefucks at some website that I won't name, after I made that report. And by the way, when I made the report of Matt Reeves having Jake Gyllenhaal as his first choice to play the new Batman, when I did that video, I said some very, very clear things. I said, number one, this doesn't mean it's happening. They have met, they've discussed it. From what I have been told, as of right now, Jake Gyllenhaal is Matt Reeves' first choice. All right? But it's nowhere near being a done deal. There are a lot of other pieces in play right now. This could never, it might never happen. Ultimately, who's going to be the next Batman is probably going to be a Warner Brothers decision, not necessarily just a Matt Reeves decision. Because Warner Brothers is going to have to live with whoever they cast as Batman, even after Matt Reeves is gone. So Warner Brothers is going to have a big say, if not the final say, in who's going to be the new Batman. So I gave all these disclaimers. This is not a done deal. It may not happen. Ultimately, it's a Warner Brothers decision. All I can tell you is that right now, Matt Reeves' first choice to play this is Gyllenhaal. He has met with Gyllenhaal a couple of times. He's meeting with other people as well. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Pardon me. So I say all of that. And a whole bunch of outlets start running with that story. And some other outlets then report that they also had heard the same thing. They just had been sitting on it for a while. So I wasn't the first person to know it. I was just the first person to report it, apparently. But then this one ass clown dumblefuck website, they decide to take a shot at me. And maybe I shouldn't air out sour grapes. Whatever, I'm in a sour mood. Some ass clown dumblefuck website decides to take a shot at me while completely contradicting themselves. Because this ass clown dumblefuck website, what they did was they put out, first of all, they do the report that, hey, there's reports out that Gyllenhaal might be Matt Reeves' first choice. They never name me, which is fine. I'm not in the scoop business, so I don't care if people credit me or not. I don't care about that. That's fine. Actually, usually I prefer it if they don't credit me, so there's that. But they don't name me at all. But they do take a shot at me as being the guy who broke it. And this ass clown dumblefuck website, they write this thing saying, well, I mean, after they write the story that, you know, Matt Reeves is looking at Gyllenhaal, this is the report, blah, blah, blah. Then they go on to say, well, you know, while it's, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but basically what they said was, you know, it's real cool to be the first one to break the story, but accuracy counts. Accuracy matters. So they took a shot at me. And it's like, well, what do you mean accuracy matters? And then they go on to say everything I had already said. They said, you know, it's got to be noted that this isn't a done deal. And I'm like, didn't I very clearly say this is not a done deal? You know, Matt Reeves is going to meet with other people. What, didn't I say that Matt Reeves was going to meet with other people? You know, Warner Brothers is going to have a say in this. Didn't I say Warner Brothers was going to have a say in this? And then somebody from this ass clown dumblefuck website then makes a video later in that day and has the audacity to put exclusive. Matt Reeves considering Jake Gyllenhaal for Batman. So they took a shot at me, just repeated everything I said while pretending like what they were saying was completely different from what I was saying, when all they did was repeated exactly what I said. And then the guy from this dumblefuck website later in the day has the audacity to make a video about the story with the term in their headline, exclusive, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, whatever. It did piss me off, though. I'm going to admit, I'd like to pretend like, oh, I just rose above it. I didn't let it bother me. I wish I could do that. But it bothered me. I'll be honest with you. It bothered me. So anyway, moving on from that. But here's the big asterisk it has to be. Look, so first of all, this whole story is filled with things that are nothing new. We've known for a while that this new Batman thing from Matt Reeves may be a soft reboot. It might be a hard reboot, but it may be a soft... We've known that for a while, so there's nothing new there. They're looking at Jake Gyllenhaal possibly as replacing Affleck. Well, we've known that forever. Warner Brothers might be souring on Affleck. That's a year old. So, on the one hand, there's really nothing new in this report. All this report is a collection of things that we've already known for a while, and then they kind of put it into one story. I'm not saying anybody's faking anything, not at all. I'm not suggesting that at all, not in the least. I'm just saying that there's really nothing new in the report. The other thing that we need to keep in mind is, and this is what I always try to tell people who watch my stuff is, whenever you hear about a story, trace it back to the source. You know, when all the websites are running the same story, see if they're all quoting the same source, and then look at who the source was. In this case, the source for the story, and I'm not maligning this website at all, not in the least. I don't even know this site, to be honest with you. The source for the story comes from a site that, quite frankly, I've never even heard of. That doesn't mean the story is true or not true. I'm just saying it's a site I've never even heard of. It's not like the source was Variety. It's not like the source was The Hollywood Reporter. It's not like the source was Deadline or The Wrap or even some of the more credible websites like, say, Slash Film or Coming Soon or things like that. And so, really, at the end of the day, this whole story about, you know, Warner Brothers souring on Affleck, they're looking at maybe Jake Gyllenhaal to take over, this could be a soft reboot, blah, blah, blah. Number one, it's coming from a source that none of us have heard of. Number two, it's really all filled with information that we've already known for weeks, months, and over a year in some cases. So, but I mean, I get it. It's fair to still talk about it because it is a accumulation of a lot of things that have been discussed in the past. So I get it. It's fair game. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think this in any way really means anything good or anything bad for Warner Brothers or the DCEU. What is interesting about this, though, is that these rumors and everything start floating around at the same time that we're seeing some major upheaval and major overhauls at Warner Brothers. You know, they've made a lot of senior personnel movements. They just instated a brand new head of their DC films. Jeff Johns is now just kind of a consultant to this new guy who is now the head of the DC films. There's a lot of shakeup and all that kind of stuff. So it is kind of interesting that these rumors and whispers are going on while we're seeing a brand new leadership structure shakeup over there at Warner Brothers. So that is interesting. But anyway, what do you guys think about all this stuff? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With all that out of the way, it's time for us to go on to the second part of this show, and that is, of course, live questions. There are two ways to get live questions on. First way is to use Twitter. Odds are your Twitter question will not get through, but I will pick one or two Twitter questions. So if you want to fire off a tweet with a question, send it off right now to @JohnCampea. Just start your tweet with @JohnCampea. And by the way, make sure you're following me @JohnCampea. And then after I go through a couple of tweets, I will go over to Super Chat and take all of the Super Chats that you guys have sent in. I will say right now, though, there's already a bunch of Super Chats that have come in. So if you have not sent in a Super Chat yet, please do not send in a Super Chat moving forward at this point, okay? So with that out of the way, let's move on and get to the first tweet of the day as I open up my Twitter feed. And my Twitter feed is not working. Okay. This is concerning. Oh dear. Oh dear, guys. My feed might crash. My feed might crash. Hold a second here. Let's see. Can you guys still see me? I'm not sure. This whole thing may have crashed. And if so, it looks like YouTube is freezing up on me. Or my what the hell? It looks like my streaming software may be freezing up on me here. Okay, guys. Here's what I'm going to do. I don't know if you guys can still hear me or not. But if you can still hear me, fabulous. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the video. I'm going to end the video here. And what I'm going to do, because apparently I cannot get my image to come back up. The image stuff is all gone. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to end the video at this point. I'm going to then go over, I'm going to make a separate video right now and put up a separate video addressing all the Super Chat questions. And and then I'll put up that video. Should be up within the next hour or so. So my apologies for the technical glitch. Nothing I can do about it. I hate technical glitches. I hate being at the mercy of technical glitches. So, okay, I will put up that second video here in just a moment. Come back and check it out. Thanks for being here today, guys. And part 2 of this video will be up within the hour. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.